Hey everybody. In this first video, I'm actually not going to be doing any animation, but I am just going to go over some technical prerequisites, how to bring the sound file, how to adjust the position of your sound file, some sound preferences, stuff like that. And I have already referenced in the character I'm going to be using. This is Raymond K. Hessel. He's the star character from my student film Heavenly Appeals that I made when I was at Ringling College of Art and Design. And I've also built a little set and some props that he'll be interacting with during the animation. I've also set up the camera that I'll be animating to, and I've locked it off so I can't move it, and I renamed it Shot Cam. And this is the panel arrangement that I like to work with. I have my Shot Cam on the left, my perspective camera on the right, and my graph editor underneath. And I am going to be using the shelves, but I'm going to move it down here next to the time slider just so it doesn't take up all this extra space. So here on the left, there are these little braille looking stuff. So if I hover over that, then my cursor changes to this. Then if I click and drag, I can move it. And then when I get it close to a spot where it's allowed to be, it'll give me a little outline of where it's going to go. And then if I let go, that's where it lands. And then I'll pull this over just to make it big enough to show all the shelf buttons. And that's the setup I'll be working with. And now I'll bring in a sound file. So I'll go to File, Import, and I'm in my Maya projects. Then within this project, this is the name of the project, and then the sound folder. So these are 3 sound files that I'll be using. I have the dialogue by itself, the sound effects by themselves, and the dialogue and sound effects combined. So first I'm going to just bring in the dialogue and just select it, say import, and then it shows up here in the time slider. And then if I right click on the time slider, I can go to sound, and then I see this is the sound file that I just brought in, and this white dot means that's what's being used. I also have the option of using track sounds, which I'll get into in a minute, and I can also turn it off. But right now, that's what's being used, so if I press play, you'll hear it.
From 1 to 10, about 4. 5!
So that's the sound, that's the dialogue I'll be working with, and that black thing that showed up at the end, I just wanted it to cut to black before it looped. So in order to give myself a few frames of black, I just made a black cube appear with a visibility switch on the frame I wanted it to appear on. So that's what that is. And now I'll bring in the sound effects. So File, Import, and Sound Effects. And the sound effects, the file that I have is an AIFF, the dialogue is a wave. Both are supported in Maya, so I can use either one. I think on a Mac you can also use MP3s, but take that with a grain of salt because I've never animated on a Mac. But I'm on a PC right now, I know that both these file types work, so I'll bring in the sound effects file. And now the green wave line that was here from the dialogue has changed into this flat green line, and that's because now I have 2 files, so it's automatically switched to use track sounds, and that means it's combining all the sound files that I have in my Maya scene. So if I press play, it would play both of these at the same time. But before I do that, I'll go to the sound effects by itself, and the sound effects start right away, like on frame 4 or 5, and that's way too soon for the purpose of my animation, but I did that on purpose because in a minute I'm going to show you how to offset the timing of the sound. So, but right now, if I press play, the sound effects will happen right away. So press play. Those are the sound effects. And now I'll go back to use track sounds, and now it'll play the sound effects and the dialogue together.
1 to 10, about 4. So
that's what's going on with that. And the drawback to using track sounds is that when you scrub through, it doesn't play the sound. So that's a bummer, and oftentimes a problem. So I'll combine them into a master file so then I can just use the one master file and scrub through and hear what's happening. So I'll go back to that in a second. But right now, before I do that, I'll adjust the timing of the sound effects to fix it. And I'll do that by going into the Tracks editor, by going to Window, Animation Editors, Tracks Editor. And if I click on this little arrow, then it expands and shows me the sound files that I have in my scene. And the name is here. This says from 1 to 10 dialogue. This says from 1 to 10 sound effects. So these are my two sound files. You see the sound waves. And you can just click and drag and adjust the timing. I know that's where I want my sound to be. And another way to adjust the timing of the offset of a sound is to go to right-click on the time slider, go to sound, and then go to the option box for that sound. And then in the attribute editor, you have the offset option. So it's 99 right now because I've already moved it over 99, and that's what this number is. So if I change this offset to 50, then it changes here to 50. If I slide it back, it's at 113, it's at 113. So that's two ways to do the same thing, basically. And now if I press play, the sound effects will be correctly timed.
4, 5.
And you can also mute whichever one of these you want. If you're using track sounds, if you have several sounds, you can mute whichever ones you want just by clicking on this little icon. So I'll click on that, then it goes dark. Now if I press play, you'll only hear the dialogue and no sound effects.
4, 5.
So that's another thing you can do. And like I said, usually once I have the sound how I like it, I'll turn it into a master file. And an easy way to do that is to just do a play blast, and then you'll get a movie with audio. Then you can bring that movie file into a program and then just export the audio, and it'll export the combined audio that you want, and then you'll have a master file. So that's one way to do it. Or you could just go into whichever program and adjust the individual sound files into the position you want them to be, and then export the audio that way. So either way, get your master file. And even when you do have a master file, it can be useful to have the individual tracks to listen to by themselves. For example, if 3 characters are talking at the same time, and it's hard to know which character is saying which words, it's helpful to have an individual dialogue track for the specific character you're working on. There are plenty of other hypotheticals, but that's the kind of stuff you can do. That's why you might do it this way. And now I'll move on to, I'll bring in that combined file that I've already made. So go to import, it is all sound, import that, and now I'll go to that file, and now I can scrub through and hear dialogue,
5.
and sound effects. So now it's combined, I can scrub through, I can play through and hear all my sounds, so that's great. And now I'll move on to the preferences. So Window, Settings, Preferences, Preferences. And I'll go to Sound. And repeat on hold is something I like a lot. It makes it so when you're scrubbing through and you're holding on a frame, it repeats the audio for that one particular frame that you're on. So right now the repeat size is 1, so when I scrub through and hold, it'll repeat 1 frame of audio.
4.
So I use it. Some people don't like it. You can just turn it off if you don't like it. Or you can make the repeat size bigger. If I switch it to 3, then it repeats 3 frames of audio.
4.
So that's the kind of thing, that's what you can do with that. That's it. That's actually it for this video. And in the next one, I'll start to animate.